All right, guys, we've talked a lot about the quarterbacks, talked a lot about the receivers, the skill guys, the tight ends. I think a group that kind of gets neglected a little bit in this conversation is the offensive line.
Always.
You know,
the big uglies.
How could we neglect the offensive
I know.
line?
We always do it, though. To me, it's one of the most fun positions to talk about because you got 5 guys there, right? It's literally half of your offense in that group. What have you seen from that group so far, guys? And is there anything, pads came on yesterday, anything that kind of stood out to you in those more physical periods yesterday?
This is the time where you really get an opportunity to evaluate your offensive line. It's hard to evaluate offensive linemen without pads on because, especially when you're talking about in the run game, can they move people in the run game? You're going against our defensive line, which is one of the tops in the National Football League. So it's an opportunity to really evaluate them, really evaluate their ability to run block. Because I look at this, I know we've talked a lot about Sam Howell, we talked a lot about our receivers, but this team is built to run the football first and foremost. Yeah. And Coach Rivera, he talked about wanting to run the ball more. So we're going to have to be able to move people off the defensive front. I want to see the offensive line continue to get movement and see how they gel, how quickly they can gel as a unit.
Yeah, that's something that I'm paying close attention to, just knowing that training camp, all the things that they did in the offseason is supposed to be the time for them to kind of get in unison. You know what I mean? Like, especially when you continue to change those positions around and you got new guys coming in, you got new bodies, you got guys who can play, different positions. All these guys are basically trying to get a feel of each other. I listened to Wiley talk about, the right side, him and Constantly kind of like being boys, and they kind of got that, they got something going on together.
And so you can tell that for sure.
You want to hear that because that's so important for us to be successful. You know what I mean? Those guys to be on one accord and to have that kind of chemistry. So I'm going to be paying close attention to it. But I think right now, so far, so good. You got one of the best defensive fronts in front of you. So you have to come with it every day,
Absolutely. And you mentioned Cosme and Wiley. I think those guys are doing a great job. Being physical, running off the football, kind of that old Shanahan, lighter guys, better athletes. They're creating great movement. A guy that I think has really shown out the past maybe 2 days is Chris Paul. He's starting to work with the ones yesterday. You see the strength he's got. You see the confidence that he's kind of developing. What does it mean for a young guy in year 2 to potentially be starting for this group?
It means a lot. And one of the things, when Chris Paul made that start in the regular season finale against the Dallas Cowboys, I got a chance to kind of, in prepping for that game, I talked to some of our defensive linemen, and they raved about him.
How strong he is,
all year long, and how he really gave them the most difficulties in practice. So they were looking forward to seeing him play, and I thought he played well in that game against the Dallas Cowboys. One thing they talked about his strength, his tenacity, and you like his size too. So it's you mentioned him getting reps with the ones. He's out there right now with the ones. There's going to be a battle. Steve Charles, he's still an unproven player. He hasn't been healthy either. So I think whoever wins that left guard position will solidify this offensive line.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you watch him yesterday, for example, Tana, right? It's a guy that, Sadiq, I think he has home runs, but he also has a lot of strikeouts. And when you watch Chris Paul get out there, it's not a lot of home runs, but it's a lot of doubles and singles. And he's consistent. He's in the right spot. His hat's in the right position. He's not losing quickly on a pass protection. And I think in the offensive line, that's what you're looking for. You want that steady Eddie, right? And I think that's super important.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important. And I think, just saying that he's getting his chance with the tools, it gives you that kind of, I smile about it because I'm like, okay, then that means we have depth. We have guys that they're considering that can be, in a competition right now. You know what I mean? They're probably trying these guys out to say, okay, let's see who gets the nod. But when you have that kind of competition going on, it solidifies not only just your offensive line, but just know that you can always reach back and say, hey, if we need a guy, we have somebody on the team already that's here.
Here's what I want to see is who has that dog. We need more dogs on the offensive line. You need those guys, man. Some junkyard dogs on the offensive line. They say Nick Gates has that type of mentality.
Yes, definitely.
A tone setter, someone who you want a bunch of pricks.
I mean, it's so funny. It's so funny you mentioned that though, Fletch, because when you watch Team Run, they started doing that on Friday last week. That group has changed since they started doing Team Run. It was a group that was kind of a lot of pass protection, losing reps here and there, kind of having a hard time finding consistency. Since they started incorporating Team Run with this group, you see an attitude, that attitude that you're talking about, Fletch, and I think that is so important for building a mindset, letting those guys know, hey man, we're not going to be dropping back 80 times a game.
Firing off.
We're going to run the football. We're going to throw play action. We're going to run RPOs and let you be aggressive. And I think that starting five with Chris Paul in there, Leno, Gates, they seem to be kind of developing that grit that's important.
I'll give you this analogy. If I'm a defensive player and I like my offensive lineman, that's the wrong O-line. That's the wrong O-line group. I don't want to like my offensive line.
That's a great point,
I want
man.
them to be some a-holes.
Yeah, you do.
Like, I want them to be like pricks, and they got to be so connected, so close as a unit. Like, if one fights,
they all fight.
12 of them fight.
Yeah.
You know, right or wrong. I don't care who it is. That's how close they got to be. They got to have that nastiness. They got to have some dog in them. And I want to see that type of mentality. Who brings that dog to this unit?
He sounds like an O-line coach, man, doesn't he? He sounds like that's what I want my O-line coach to be talking like there, Tana.
But think about it though. Also, that it's going to come from our OC. You know,
that's a great point. Love it.
Mentality. I guarantee you, all these guys on the offense going to take a little bit out of out of his book because you got to think he's going to be so far up him.
Yeah.
I remember having a coach in high school, my head coach, and it was nothing you could do nice around this guy. If you wasn't mean, if you wasn't disrespectful, he was going to be disrespectful.
Yeah.
So you kind of took on that persona.
Yeah.
And that's what you get from EB. That you hear guys talk about how he's up there behind every day, about every play. That's what you want. Guys like, a De'Ami Brown. It's no time to slack now. You got to be better because he's going to be on you, and that's what you want. So I think when you have the offensive lineman, hey, if you want to be on the field, you better be nice. I mean, you better not be nice. You better make sure that guy fear you and hate you on the other side. And you have a coach that's going to
and also don't respect that defensive line too much.
Yeah.
Like, we got some great players on that defensive line. And I'm speaking as an offensive guy.
Yeah.
You got to respect those guys, but you got to let them know, hey, they got to deal with you too. They're going to have to bring it every single day. And that's how you have to have. I respect you, but you're going to have to respect me too. You're going to have to know that I'm going to bring it every single day too. You're going to get better going against me, and I'm going to get better going against you.
And it's so funny you bring that up because I really feel like since they've been running the football more, that's kind of been happening. That lack of respect has shown up a little bit. There's been a physicality, a finish that's been really nice to see, and it gets you excited because now all of a sudden with Chris Paul playing a little bit more consistently, Leno, we know who he is, Gates, we know who he is, Cosme's coming along, Wiley's looking a lot better. That group, the dynamic changes completely, and all of a sudden you've got the best swing tackle in football, Cornelius Lucas, right? You've got some other good depth pieces. Number 60, Jones, who was an XFL last year, playing right guard, looking really, really good. It's so funny how these first 6 or 7 days have led to development. How important is that development and in terms of building a roster and making like a galvanized group, right? It's extremely critical.
I think it's very important, but also when you speak about those guys, having a little more confidence in their run game is because they probably feel like that's their strong suit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Look, hey, these guys, we have some of the best that's getting after us when it comes into pass protection. So now we get a chance to short our stuff a little bit.
Absolutely.
And be a little nasty and be a little quicker to the to the punch.
Absolutely.
So it's always great to be able to say, hey, you know what? We give y'all due, in the pass rush, and you getting us better and knowing how to protect and block you guys. But when it's time to run, we're gonna show you a thing or two.
Yeah, it's so funny.
You talked about development.
Yeah.
Development at every position is extremely important, but at the offensive line, it's vitally important because you're gonna have injuries that occur, and throughout the course of a season, you may be down 2 starters on your offensive line, and you better have some guys that can come in. We know Lucas can come in and play, but who's going to be those other guys? You drafted Stromberg.
Yes.
So you figure
he's looked very good as well.
He'll be in the mix, and you need a lot of depth at the offensive line position and continue to develop those young guys.
And to get that point, that kid Jones from Pittsburgh, number 60 right there, has really come a long way. He was in rookie minicamp, and you're like, man, he's not going to make it. And all of a sudden, something's clicked for him. He's a big man. He's 350. He's got long arms. He's got an opportunity to make some waves here, and I think that's great. And you mentioned development, Fletch, or I mentioned it, and you kind of referenced it there. The best offensive lines in football, Philadelphia Eagles, they develop guys internally, right? And I think if you can get a coach here with Juan Castillo, with that whole group there that's doing a great job, you're gonna have a really dynamic group. Let's shift gears here a little bit. Let's talk about the extension of that offensive line. Let's talk about the tight ends for a second.
Gotcha.
Of course, you want to talk about.
I gotta talk about my guys, right?
I
gotta talk about my guys.
I just saw like 3 sets. I said, hey, they got 3 tight ends.
Yeah, that's very good. That's right. So we're here. We're gonna talk about them right now. I feel like that group has been maybe the highlight of the camp. In terms of offensive playmakers, you get Logan Thomas making a ton of plays. Bates has been making plays. Curtis has been making plays, and then Cole Turner's been that guy who's been really consistent. What's the ceiling for that group? Could they like kind of surprise everybody, or because everyone's talking about them? What's the deal?
Let me jump out there and say this. Last year we was extremely impressed.
Yes.
And we didn't get the chance to see.
Because they were hurt, yeah.
All those guys got nicked in some sort. And I think Bass had a rough one. He ended up getting nicked a little bit. One of the guys that surprised us was Rogers last year. He came out of nowhere, and we was talking about him being an ex-quarterback, and he was out there, he played phenomenal for us. But to see these guys now, you don't want to jump too far ahead and say what they could be and what they could do.
That's a great point.
But it's just great to see them bouncing around, man, especially Logan Thomas, knowing what he went through, knowing the season he was having before he injured that knee, how vital he was for our quarterback in the red zone. When you think about the Kansas City Chiefs and what they did with their, with Kelsey and having other weapons, that's going to be key, man, to be able to use them. Remember, we was watching film, and I love when you break down film, he shows things that you never really, pay attention to. But remember when they had those 3 or 2 tight end sets and how the tight end was able to post,
get the slant on the backside.
And so when you think about seeing that and just knowing that kind of skilled guys we have at that position, you just have high hopes, man.
I want to see Cole Turner, see what he looks like. He was off to a good start last year and then got injured. Wrapping up with the tight ends, I will say this. We talk about development. We talk about using this time doing training camp to get better. Bass, he needs to continue to develop as a receiver. So every time he comes on the field,
it's not a run.
It won't be
and Logan needs to get Logan Thomas needs to get better as a blocker.
Absolutely.
So those two things, those guys develop in those areas. Now it really puts the defense in the bind because you can't say, all right, John.
This is a tendency.
He's they're running the ball, or Logan. It's more of a pass catching tight end. You have to be extremely versatile.
And I know we're kind of up against the clock here, but real quick, Fletch, I got a quick question. What does having a good pass-catching tight end do to opposing defenses? Because you've had to cover a lot of tight ends, a lot of great ones. What challenges does that face for opposing defenses?
It presents a lot of challenge for the defense because typically you don't want to have a bunch of resources committed to stopping a tight end. Like, think about when you go against Travis Kelce, how many resources you got to employ to go against him. And when you got a guy who can dominate the middle of the field, when you got Terry, Curtis, and Jahan outside, you can't say, all right, we're going to double everybody. So it just really expands and elevates the offense in general.
Yeah, man, it looks like they're getting ready to do some team stuff here, but unfortunately we got to get off the field. I know, you're going to watch practice, but hey, we'll have to come. Make sure you tune in next week. We'll get some of this team activity, and thanks for consuming this content. For bonus field pass, check out Command Center Thursday, 6 p.m.